Hey friends, I am at the Grand Canyon and I'm going to read you chapters 3 and 4 of Design Different. So here we go. Enjoy the beautiful nature around me. The world was built for linear brains. The world you're trying to succeed in did not accidentally become hostile to your biology. It did not drift this way through some collective oversight. It was built deliberately, over time, efficiently, and without ever stopping to ask who would be crushed in the process. The Industrial Revolution did not care about neurological diversity. Frederick Winslow Taylor, the father of scientific management, famously believed that the ideal worker was one who could be trained to perform a task with maximum efficiency and zero deviation. He literally said in print that the worker should do what they are told to do promptly and without asking questions or making suggestions. That was 1911. The philosophy outlived him by a century. Modern workplaces, schools, healthcare models, and productivity frameworks are all downstream of that exact mindset. Nothing much has changed. The assembly line just swapped out the factory floor for an open plan office and added a wellness app for the love. Linear systems run on a simple belief: effort equals results. Show up the same way every day and you will be rewarded. These systems assume motivation is stable, energy is available on demand, and consistency is a character trait. When something is not working, the solution is always the same: more structure, more pressure, more discipline. These assumptions are not malicious, they are efficient, at least for a large subset of human biology. They just do not work for you. Your brain does not operate like a conveyor belt. It does not produce evenly distributed output across time. It is context sensitive, meaning driven, and state dependent. It elevates when the conditions support it and resists when they do not. That resistance is not a disorder, it is intelligence doing its job. But linear systems do not recognize intelligence unless it looks obedient. Here's the part that no one ever explains. Linear systems assume biology is neutral. They assume that your internal state is irrelevant to your capacity to perform. They assume energy can be summoned on demand and motivation can be manufactured through pressure. Biologically, this is simply not true for complex nervous systems. Some brains generate motivation through routine completion, like checking things off a list. Others activate through novelty, meaning urgency or emotional engagement. Some nervous systems recover quickly after stress. Others integrate deeply and hold load longer. Some systems thrive on repetition. Others degrade under it. None of these patterns are moral. They are biological. And linear systems ignore all of them. So when your energy surges one day and disappears the next, the system calls you inconsistent. When you need meaning or novelty to stay engaged, the system tells you to grow up and push through. When you cannot perform on a Tuesday for reasons having nothing to do with willpower and everything to do with the fact that your nervous system hit a wall on Monday and has not recovered, the system marks it against your character. No one asks what conditions would allow you to function well. They only ask why you cannot function like everyone else. That question is where the damage begins. Research on dopamine and motivation has confirmed what complex nervous systems have been demonstrating for decades. Dopamine does not behave the same way in every brain. Variations in dopamine receptor density and signaling significantly alter how motivation is generated, sustained, and depleted. Brains with lower baseline dopamine tone require higher meaning, higher novelty, or higher urgency conditions to initiate and sustain effort. Under low stakes, low meaning conditions, the system simply does not allocate energy. This is not a choice. This is chemistry. And chemistry does not respond to lectures about discipline. You learned early that your natural rhythms were inconvenient, that variability made people uncomfortable, that your sensitivity needed to be managed quietly, ideally invisibly. You learn that being taken seriously requires flattening yourself into something more predictable, smaller, less. Over time, you absorb the message that success requires constant self-betrayal and that listening to your own system is a weakness, and that goal is to perform regardless of internal state. This is not a mindset problem. It is a design conflict between a non-linear nervous system and a linear culture, and it has been costing you for years. Here's what your culture never said out loud. Your brain notices more. You feel more. You sense something is off before it ever becomes obvious. You detect overload before it shows up on a spreadsheet. You see inefficiency long before anyone wants to admit it exists. You walk into a room and instantly read the emotional temperature, the unspoken tension, the thing everyone is carefully not saying. That makes you extraordinarily valuable and deeply inconvenient at the same time. Systems that depend on people not noticing do not know what to do with someone who does. So instead of rethinking the structure, they train you to suppress what you perceive. Think of it this way. You're an improviser who has been handed a script and told to follow it. Improvisation is not chaos. It is a high-order cognitive skill requiring constant listening, rapid integration, and precise timing. An improviser does not follow a rigid plan. She responds to what is actually happening and creates coherence through responsiveness. Put her in a scripted world, and she does not become a better performer. She becomes constrained, dulled, and eventually, mercifully, disengaged. If you've ever watched a genuinely gifted person go flat inside a bureaucratic system, you have watched this happen in real time. The gift is not gone. The conditions suffocated it. There is also the matter of transitions, something that almost nobody talks about. Once you hear it, you will not be able to stop seeing it everywhere. The hardest moment for a complex nervous system is not the task itself, it is the gap between the tasks. Research from the American Psychological Association on context switching found that shifting between tasks can cost as much as 40% of productive time, not because of laziness or distraction, but because the brain must reorient its entire cognitive architecture with each switch. For complex minds, the cost is significantly higher. Your nervous system releases small stress response at every transition, getting up, going out the door, moving from one project to another, starting dinner after a full day of work. These transitions look small from the outside. From the inside, each one is asking your brain to close everything it was holding, reorient completely, and open something new. For a brain processing the world at your resolution, that is not a small task. By the time you finally sit down to do the thing that actually matters, your nervous system has already spent its budget on transitions you did not choose and interruptions you could not prevent. From the outside, it looks like poor productivity. From the inside, it is depletion wearing a capable expression and a good attitude. Research published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology found that even brief interruptions of around 3 seconds are enough to double the error rate of subsequent tasks. 3 seconds. For complex minds, managing both the interruptions and the emotional tone of the people causing them, this cost compounds. This is not about being easily distracted. This is about operating a high-resolution system in an environment that was designed with no regard for what high-resolution systems actually need. Here's the good news buried in all of this. When you understand the world was built for a different kind of brain, you stop taking the friction personally. The difficulty you have experienced inside systems designed for linear minds is not evidence of your limitations. It is evidence of a mismatch. You were not failing the system was failing you. That is a completely different story and leads to completely different solutions. Your resistance is not laziness. Your inconsistency is not a character flaw. Your exhaustion is not a failure of grit. It is the entirely predictable cost of running a nonlinear system inside linear expectations indefinitely without support or acknowledgement that the cost even exists. And here's what matters most. Now that you understand the system you've been surviving inside, you can stop trying to fix yourself and start building something that actually fits. The GENEIUS framework exists because complex brains do not need more rules. They need frameworks that honor responsiveness without collapsing into chaos. That coordinate energy instead of extracting it. I can read. Give me a second here. I'm wondering what I meant by this phrase. Yes. The framework that coordinates energy instead of extracting it, that adapts instead of punishes, that starts from the truth of your biology and builds outward from there. You are not the problem that needs solving. You are the intelligence that has been waiting for the right conditions. Those conditions start now. Chapter 4. We're going to do this one real quick. When competence becomes a cage. There's a kind of competence that looks admirable from the outside and feels absolutely brutal on the inside. You know it well. I know it well. It is the competence that forms when you're always managing what no one else even sees or even notices. You hold the invisible threads together while everyone else moves freely throughout the day. You anticipate problems before they exist, smooth transitions before they become disruptions, and absorb friction so other people never have to feel it. Things work because you are invisibly working them. And the more capable you prove yourself to be, the more the system leans on you, without ever reinforcing the ground beneath your feet. Congratulations! You're an early warning system, the emergency manager, the person who keeps the whole thing from falling apart. There is no trophy for this. There is rarely even a thank you. Let me be clear about something. This is not ambition. It is not a boundary problem or a personality flaw or a trauma response you need to heal before you're allowed to rest. It is a brain state. Neurologically, overfunctioning is driven by persistent activation of certain brain systems, specifically the ones that continuously flag what matters, detect error and conflict, hold the plan, and manage impulses. These systems are metabolically expensive. They burn fuel continuously. They were never designed to stay online indefinitely. When you are absorbing responsibility for stability across emotional, logistical, and relational domains simultaneously, your nervous system does not get tired. It gets strategic. It starts rationing access to your highest gears. That's why overfunctioning feels less like effort and more like vigilance. You are not pushing. You are perpetually preparing for the next thing that might go wrong. If you are a mother, your day is not organized by task. It is organized by what you see coming. You are tracking the shoes left behind, emotions left unresolved, schedules half remembered, meals that need to appear at the exact right moment, and messes that multiply with a speed that defies physics when no one is looking. You are not doing this because others are careless. You are doing it because you notice before they do. Your brain is holding context across multiple lives at once, predicting what will be needed and filling the gap before anyone feels the consequence. None of this counted as work. It is assumed, as if noticing were effortless, as if managing complexity did not cost anything. Invisible work rarely produces a completion signal. When problems are solved before they exist, the brain never gets the chemical payoff that says we're safe now, stand down. So it stays on, like a smoke detector that never quite resets, running softly in the background of every quiet moment you try to have. That is why downtime does not feel like rest. That is why the weekend does not fully restore you. That is why you can take a vacation and come back more tired than when you left. Your nervous system was never really off. It was just operating in a different location. Work environments run the same program with different costumes. Meetings interrupt deep work. Messages interrupt thinking. Urgency bullies importance with the confidence of someone who has never been told no. The research on interruptions is striking. Even brief interruptions of just a few seconds are enough to meaningfully increase error rates on complex tasks. For complex minds, managing both the interruptions and the emotional tone of the people causing them, this cost compounds. You see that this is important? I've said it twice. By the time you finally sit down to do the thing that actually matters, your nervous system has already spent its budget. From outside, this looks like a productivity problem. From the inside, it is depletion with a good attitude and a carefully maintained poker face. See, this is off of the book. Personal life, professional life, it happens in both places a lot. Physiology has a name for what happens when stress systems stay on too long without shutting down properly. Allostatic load. It is a cumulative wear and tear of a system that is never fully off duty. Think of it like carrying a backpack that gets a little heavier every day without anyone ever taking anything out. You adapt. You adjust your posture, you compensate until one day you wake up and your back is shot and everyone is confused because you seemed fine yesterday. That is allostatic load. And for complex minds, it accumulates faster and sits heavier than most people around you will ever understand. Your body has learned that safety depends on staying ahead of demand. Rest does not register as restorative because the brain does not fully believe the coast is clear. Stillness triggers alertness. Sleep becomes lighter because the brain is still scanning. Recovery feels vaguely irresponsible, like there's something you should be attending to. This is why rest does not work the way it is supposed to work for you. You are not bad at resting. Your nervous system does not trust it yet. And it is not a character flaw. It is a learned physiological adaptation to an environment that kept requiring you to be on. The body learned the rules. Now it needs to learn new ones. Under chronic stress, the body also starts making decisions. Un momento, por favor. About resources that look from the outside like health problems, but are actually survival strategies. Digestive function slows because digestion is expensive, and the brain has decided that there are more urgent things to fund. Hormones shift because the body is prioritizing the stress response over reproductive and metabolic functions. Sleep quality changes because the brain is still scanning for a threat even at 3 a.m. Inflammation increases because the immune system gets activated when stress response stays on too long. None of this was your body failing you. It is your body doing exactly what it was designed to do under conditions it believes it's living in. The problem is the conditions, not the design. Under chronic stress, dopamine signaling becomes conservative. The brain starts to prioritize certainty over meaning. Tasks that require depth, care, or creativity become neurologically expensive because of the cost of caring, plus the risk of falling short, plus the energy required to recover from falling short. And it has been calculated and found prohibitive. So your nervous system runs on equation. If I start, I will care. If I care, I will carry. If I carry, I will not recover. And then, very wisely, it refuses to initiate. From the outside, it looks like procrastination. It looks like sitting on the edge of the bed for 45 minutes instead of getting dressed, unable to explain, but also unable to move. It is not a discipline problem. It is a threat detection system that has learned your best work comes with costs it cannot currently afford. This is one of the most important things I want you to understand about your body. It is not your enemy. It has never been your enemy. Every single symptom, every pattern of avoidance, every shutdown, every inexplicable resistance to things you actually want to do is your body trying to protect you with the information it has. The problem is not your body. Let me say it again. The problem is not your body. The problem is that the information it has been working from does not include what you now know. It has been doing the math based on years of data about what happens when you push too hard, show up too fully, care too much. It learned those lessons from you. Now you get to teach it something different. The deepest cost of overfunctioning is not exhaustion, though exhaustion is real and significant. The deepest cost is identity erosion. You start defining yourself by what you can tolerate instead of what you are designed to create. Endurance becomes the metric. Resilience gets the applause when a redesign is actually what is required. Even success starts to feel hollow. Not like fulfillment, but like relief. Not, I built something I love, but I didn't collapse today. You are not filled. You are just temporarily not failing. And most women live there for a very, very long time before they realize there is somewhere else to be. The anger shows up here. And I want to talk about that anger because it matters. For many complex-brained women, the anger arrives as curiosity first. Then it becomes a kind of anger that provokes tears. Somewhere between still exhausted and finally understanding why, there's a moment of hot, clarifying rage. I did all of it right. I tried everything. I was competent beyond what most people could sustain, and it still was not enough because the system was broken, not me. That anger is justified. It is not something to manage or soften or breathe through. It is data. It is your nervous system recognizing, possibly for the first time, that the operational model it has been running has never been biologically acceptable. The answer is not to endure it better. The answer is to change the conditions that created it. That is what this book is actually about. Not endurance, not better coping, not a new system that extracts more from you with less damage, a genuinely different way of operating. One built from the ground up for the brain you actually have, the body you actually live in, and the life you actually want. The one where you love your body because you understand it. The one where effort stops feeling like war. The one where you are not just surviving inside someone else's framework, but thriving inside your own. That version of your life is not a fantasy. It is a biological possibility. And every chapter from here is about how to get there. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed the Grand Canyon. Have a good one.